David Morgan with you at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, January 2018. Rick Van Nieuwenhuyse with me on my right, and Trilogy Metals. Quite a story. For those that don't know the story, where is it and what are you doing?
So we're in Alaska. We were a company that was spun out of Nova Gold, which was a company I started about 20 years ago. And we had this copper asset. Nova Gold was going on to basically permitting the Donlin project, which we're now wrapping up. But 5 years ago, this was a fairly brand new project, and we wanted to sort of put it in its own, get back to exploration, if you will. So we put together the district. We formed a partnership with an Alaska Native corporation. We've staked pretty much about 50 kilometers of a 70-kilometer long mineral belt. And we focused our attention on two projects, the Arctic project, which is 40 million tons of 5% copper equivalent.
Wait a minute. I mean, that's got to be like a world class, right? I mean, where does that fit in the hierarchy of copper projects?
It'll be the highest grade open pit copper mine in the world. We're finishing a pre-feasibility study on it now. It'll be out to the market here probably within a month. And then the second project, which is about 20 miles away, as a crow flies, is called Bornite. There's an open pit resource there that we've identified as about 125 million tons of 1% copper. And then the zone continues at depth as an underground resource at a higher cutoff, obviously, about 65 million tons of 3% copper. So these are kind of standout grades. We are in Alaska. It's a remote part of the world. But because we're partnered with an Alaska Native Corporation, we've been able to work with the state of Alaska and a group called the Alaska Industrial Development Export Authority, or better known as AIDA by their acronym. They are in the process of permitting an access road. They will fund it by issuing bonds, infrastructure bonds. They're AA plus rated, so they'll be able to get relatively low bond rates, and then we'll pay a toll to use the road as a private mining company road. Good synergies with the local communities. They'll get cheaper fuel. And about 60% of our hire is from the local communities, so good support for the project in our area, and a lot of that comes because of our partnership with NANA.
So give me a timeline, Rick, for the road, the infrastructure, toll road to get built. I like that approach. So the state builds the road and there's a toll road, so you're getting money back from the infrastructure.
Yeah, so they started permitting last year. The scoping part of the process will end up this month into January. They have 9 months of draft EIS to work through, and then that goes out to the public for comment, and then the final EIS would be expected in 2019. The Trump administration obviously has a different view on resource development, particularly in Alaska, and they're pushing the agencies to move quicker. Secretary Zenke had an executive order issued a few months ago, basically saying let's get these EIS process done in a year. There's a lot of things still to do, so I think if we have a 2-year time frame from where we are now, that's still a pretty realistic time frame to permit a 200-mile road. In the meanwhile, we'll start permitting our Arctic project. So things are really kind of coming together on the infrastructure side. And on the engineering side, from our side, getting this pre-feasibility study done here in another month or so.
Excuse the pun, roadblocks, but is there any, the funding's there, you got the money, there's going to be a hiccup or two, we're both adults, we know that, but you're in a financial condition to carry through all the way, no problem.
Yeah, we're in really good financial shape. We have a great share structure with a little over 100 million shares outstanding. Mostly institutional, mostly U.S. Electrum, Baupost, Paulson are big shareholders, and then South 32, who have an option with us on and are potentially earning in on the project. They become a significant shareholder at 6%, and I'm a significant shareholder. I just purchased 1.4 million shares on the market, so. That got a lot of attention. When the CEO buys a bunch of shares on the market, it's not exercising options, it's actually going into the market and buying shares. So we're in a really good spot. We think the kind of assets we have are pretty unique in terms of grade. They're just outside of the Congo, you just don't see these kind of grades anymore. And Arctic at 5% open pit is just that's a good underground mining grade, and it's equivalent grade, so it's 3% copper, 4% zinc, plus the precious metals credit. We'll produce 3 concentrates. We were just playing around with some numbers on the concentrate value, and for every 10-cent increase in the zinc price, which is our second metal, that adds $100 of value, over $100 of value to the con grade. So
interesting.
And copper's about the same.
Well, David Smith, our senior analyst, went up there, I think, in August, and I was quite impressed. We put some pretty favorable ink in the Morgan report, the paid report, on Trilogy metals, and I think that it's a story that's needs to be more recognized. Where do you think you are in the market as far as recognition? You think?
Literally for 4 or 5 years, when the copper price was going from $3.50 down towards $2, there was like zero interest.
Yeah. Let me interject. I mean, the reason I'm saying this is because 5% copper. Come on. I mean, this is something that is unheard of, and yet it doesn't matter. This is my perspective, but I want to hear your comment. And no matter how good something was during the bad years, it seemed to make no difference. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's I think during those kind of periods in this cyclical markets. Yeah, it doesn't matter. People are looking for a reason not to buy, and there's plenty of those. And for us, it was, you don't have infrastructure, you don't have the road. And we worked hard during that period of time to work with the state, work with the Alaska Native Corporation, NANA, to get the permitting process underway. And it just happened to be somewhat coincidental of the copper market turns around and, what about that road? Well, it's being permitted. So, I mean, it's a tough business. You've been around the mining business.
I'm CEO of a royalty company, nothing like what you've been through, but the EIS thing, I mean, it could drive you absolutely, completely nuts, and excuse my thoughts, but I mean, I'm very bold of my opinion, and there was a project I won't name that was bought by a major, and EIS had already been done through Noranda, and it was being redone, and I think it took about 6 years to get this thing done. And I'm neither pro-Trump or against Trump. What I'm for is expediting things and cutting through the red tape. And you are the third interview I've had this weekend where the mention of the fact that someone has kind of lit a fire under some of these agencies to be, let's say, more cognizant of the time that is required to do these things.
Yeah, I'd say more responsible.
More responsible, I like your word. Yeah, because...
And it's a tone at the top, and it takes time to filter down. And, I think Zenke said it very well. He said, this was during that whole controversy about the football teams and all this, and he said, we know what we're dealing with. We know there's a whole bunch of people here who don't want these projects going forward, and we know how the bread's buttered, and we'll work the system, and we'll get the changes in attitude there, and we're seeing that now, front and center. Things are happening. They're moving forward, and the attitude has changed. No question.
Great. Well, Rick, great story. Really appreciate your time. Is there anything that we haven't discussed on Trilogy Metals that we should talk about?
Yeah, there's one we're working on at our Bornite project. It's mainly been known as a copper project, and it is a good, high-quality copper project. We've always known that there's been cobalt there, and so the last few months we've been doing some geometallurgical work on where the cobalt's residing, and then we've resolved that. Now we know where the cobalt's occurring. It's occurring in cobaltiferous pyrite, carolite, and cobaltite. So they're very specific minerals that we can now then focus on the metallurgical processing for to get them concentrated. So my hope is that this year we can start talking about the cobalt element of the Bornite story, which will be a bit of a new story, because as you know, there's not a lot of cobalt around the world outside of the Congo, and that's a pretty opaque place to do business and invest hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So we think having a significant cobalt resource outside of the Congo in North America, partner with an Alaska Native Corporation, would be a pretty unique opportunity for shareholders again. So we're working hard on that. We hope to be able to resolve it from a metallurgical standpoint, and then we can start talking about cobalt as a resource at Bornite.
All right. Well, maybe next time. Well, Rick, so it was a pleasure. Thank you for bringing us up to speed.
Later.